and welcome to another Get Good at Business highlight. I am your host and business coach, Taylor Proctor, here to help you get good at business so you can get back into the heart of why you got into business in the first place. And we like to do that through a combination of ways here on the show. The first is through the I Move method, which stands for intuition, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution. And the second way that we like to help you get good at business is by highlighting incredible business owners, such as my guest today, Melissa Snow, and how she utilizes and works within the areas of the I Move method to grow her business. Because when we can learn from entrepreneurs of all different industries, backgrounds, and levels, we can learn to get good at business together. So I'm so excited to be joined by Melissa today. She is a business relationship strategist dedicated to empowering women in entrepreneurship. She founded the Powerful Women Rising community, which provides female business owners with essential support and resources for, of course, business growth. Melissa's other mission is to revolutionize networking, promoting authenticity and genuine connections over sleazy sell tactics. She lives in Colorado Springs with her husband, 2 dogs, and 3 cats. She loves iced coffee, true crime, Taylor Swift, and buying books she'll never read. Oh, I think we can all relate there, Melissa. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
So we got a little bit of a look there through your bio. You're in Colorado Springs, you got some dogs, you got some cats, but let's dive into what motivated you to really create Powerful Women Rising. What was the situation that influenced the mission to empower women specifically in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I was working full time as a personal injury paralegal, and my first kind of dive into entrepreneurship happened kind of accidentally. I was moonlighting for someone else who had a business, basically where he would contract with attorneys. They would pay him for a medical records summary. He would pay us to do the summary, right? So they were paying him $60 an hour. He was paying us $25 an hour. It was a perfect deal for him. And he decided to move his business in a different direction, asked me if I wanted his clients. I said, sure. Overnight, I became an entrepreneur with a full load of clients. And I was like, entrepreneurship is fun. We should keep doing this. Little did I know it doesn't always work that way. So my second venture into entrepreneurship was in the coaching world. I was a dating and relationship coach for women for about 6 years. And when I decided to pivot out of that business, there were a lot of different reasons for it. But one of the main reasons was I was realizing that the part of that business that I loved the most was really like the empowerment piece of it. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, let me help you find a boyfriend or let me help you get a life partner. It was like, let me help you see all of these things that are true about you that you don't even know are true about you. And I
Right.
realized that so much of that actually carries over into business too. Like I reference my dating coaching a lot in business because there's a lot of similarities, weirdly enough. And the other thing for me was I had spent so much time and so much money on all of the things that I thought were going to help me grow my coaching business, right? I had paid for the expensive masterminds and the one-on-one coach and the VIP day and the website and the photos and all of the things. And although there was value in a lot of those things, when I looked back on it, the one thing that was the thing that consistently made me money and brought me clients was the relationships that I had built. And so I really wanted to create a space where female entrepreneurs could kind of get back to basics and focus on that, like creating relationships and getting to know each other and supporting each other and being better at networking so that it was more enjoyable and also more profitable. And so that's kind of how the Powerful Women Rising community was born.
I love that. And it sounds like at several points in your journey, intuition came into play and like this idea of what do I really like about my business? Where do I want to take things? So, how do you balance in the back end of your business intuition with the strategic planning to really ensure that the Powerful Women Rising's community's needs are met?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like to tell this story a lot because I think a lot of times we see in business the success stories and we don't see the stories that are not as successful. And for me, when I first launched the Powerful Women Rising community, I did a founding members launch. I had, I think, 34 members in my founding member launch. They all paid for 6 months up front at a discounted rate in agreement to provide me with feedback. And at the end of that first 6 months, only three of them continued on out of 34. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, something here did not work. And so I got some really great feedback from them, but I was also able to realize like what we think our clients need and what our clients actually want are not always the same thing. And the other thing that I realized through talking to some of these women that were in the community is that I kept like adding more and more things in, thinking like what I offered in the beginning wasn't valuable enough, right? Now I have to do this and I have to do a workshop and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to add these calls. And they told me at the end, like, it was too much. What you were offering in the beginning was exactly what we came for you for. And so, like, just trust that. And so that really was valuable for me in terms of balancing like what is the data actually telling me, and what are my clients and my potential clients telling me versus what do I think is the right thing? What do I think is the right direction? What do I think that they need and want? And so I think being open to that feedback. One of the best pieces of advice that I got when I was thinking about shutting down my dating coaching business and transitioning, I was looking at like all of the assets I'd created and my website, and I had like 20 different lead magnets and 20 different workshops and all of the things. And I was like, oh, but this is so much. And someone told me, don't continue making the same mistake over and over again just because you spent a lot of time and money making it the first time. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So I kind of use that advice to help me balance out like what is the right decision. And, let's be honest, a lot of times in business, we don't know what the right decision is. And the only way to figure it out is to just go with what we think is right and then see what happens. And I think people get stuck on that a lot because we want to know, like, if I go in this direction, what's going to happen? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? How's it going to go? And most of the time, you just have to go for it, like trust your intuition and then just see what happens.
I love that too because I often say like it's the follow your intuition, but have an experimental mindset. Meaning like let's just build this and put it out there and market it and give it what it needs, but like let's actually just put it out there and see and test. And then we can come back and iterate or be like, we didn't like that, or that's just not what I wanted. And so now you can adjust. But that I agree with you, that block of it's got to be perfectly outlined and we know it's the right path really limits a lot of entrepreneurs. So I love that you bring that up as part of the intuition mindset. That's excellent.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to do it more than once. Sometimes we have to do it more than a couple times. Like I see this and you probably do too. People have this great idea and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing. Everybody's going to want it." Then they put it out in the world. They get like maybe one sign up and then they're like, "Never mind, that wasn't a good idea." Well, was it though? Like maybe it was a great idea, but one of the other like 15 pieces didn't execute correctly. So that's part of it too, is not just like immediately giving up when you're like, it didn't work, never mind.
Right. And you mentioned like one of those other 15 things weren't really executing or firing properly. And I think that's a great segue into the M of I move, which is all about marketing. One of those areas that's got to be connected to make selling offers and these pieces work. So can you share some of your effective marketing strategies that you've used to promote Powerful Women Rising and really attract that ideal client of like-minded entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I've really tried to practice what I preach in terms of networking and relationships and using those things to grow business. I think that there's a way to do that with authenticity and integrity that doesn't feel as much as like a sleazy salesman. And so that's really the way that I have grown this business. But also, one of the things that I say a lot is people get really caught up on that word networking. Like, we think that means we need to go to a networking event and put on our pantsuit and have a glass of wine and schmooze with the and Like networking really is anything that you're doing that's creating a connection with another person. So you can, like, this is networking, right? If somebody sees this in your Facebook group or on your YouTube channel and they're like, oh, I feel really connected to her. I want to know more about her. Great. I've just networked. You can do it at your kid's soccer game. You can do it at a formal networking event. Like you can do it even on social media. There's a way to create connections with people, like real, genuine, authentic connections. And so that's really what I've tried to focus on. We'll talk a little bit later, I think, about the virtual speed networking events that I run once a month, but that is a big part of my marketing because that gives me an opportunity to really connect with people one on one who have never met me before. And so that is very helpful. I think really the how I'm doing it or the where I'm doing it has mattered a lot less than how I'm doing it, right? I've become a lot more of myself this year than I think ever before. And really just kind of showing up with that, like, this is sometimes messy and imperfect, and here I am, and we're just going, has allowed me to attract the kind of women who are attracted to that, who don't want to have to like put on this mask of, oh, I'm super successful and I'm doing all of the things right. And here I am on my yacht. Like, you'll never see that from me. And so the right people have been attracted to that. And I mean, again, it's very much like dating, right? My dating coaching clients used to say when we were working on their online dating profiles, they'd say, like, I don't want to put that on my profile because I don't want it to turn people off. Like, what if somebody sees that and then they don't want to talk to me? And I'm like, that's exactly what you want to have
Right.
happen, right? Like, I was doing some event. I think it was maybe my virtual speed networking event. And I had this big, big glass of ice water. And I spilled the whole thing all over my computer, like right in the middle of my little spiel. And I was like, yes, hi, I just spilled water all over. I don't know what's going on right now. I'm going to put you in a breakout room. Bye bye. So, like, that's just the kind of thing that I think, like, when you show up as yourself in whatever capacity or, whether it's on social media or in person or whatever you're doing, that I think is kind of the secret sauce to marketing and how you attract the right people to you.
Yes, I love that. And you're spot on. Like people don't want to see the picture perfect 2016 influencers anymore. It's I want to know you're a real person who goes through real life just like me. Build that know like and trust factor, that relatability, those relationships. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's move to the O of I move. And I want to frame this in kind of a different way because I feel like a lot of business owners and really people in general, when we hear networking, when we hear go out and connect with all these people, it's like maybe you go to an event and you meet all these people and then you're like, and now I have 20 folks to follow up with or things like that. And so, do you have an operational system or process that you've implemented to really maintain your business and the groups, but also specifically that follow-up process to take those connections and that networking to the next level?
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the questions I get asked most often about networking is how do I keep track of the follow-up? How do I keep up with it? Who do I follow up with? How do I follow up with them? How often? It can be very overwhelming. And so one of the things for me that I'm always preaching is like, don't feel like you have to follow up with everyone that you met, right? It's again, like dating, online dating profiles. You have like all the people on the app, then you have the people that you have swiped and they've swiped on you. You have the people you've had a conversation with. Like at each interval, you're deciding like, is this someone I want to spend more time getting to know? Networking, very similar. You're going to meet a whole bunch of people at an event. You don't have to follow up with all of them. In fact, you probably shouldn't follow up with all of them. But knowing exactly like what are you looking for in your network? What roles are you looking to fill? What gaps do you have in your network or in your business community? All of those things can kind of help you figure out like, okay, who is it that I'm looking for and who do I want to follow up with? Really getting clear on like who your best power partners are. For me in the beginning, I thought my best power partners were going to be business coaches, and sometimes they are. But it has to be the right business coach. A lot of times I meet business coaches who are like, I'm not referring people to you because what if they get everything they need in the Powerful Women Rising community and then they don't need me anymore, right? So like business coaches who understand what I do and understand that I understand what they do, and like there's a space for both of us.
Right.
Those are good power partners for me, but a lot of times it is like people who do websites or who do branding photography or things like that, who people are maybe reaching out to when they're first getting started, that are like, oh, this is the thing that I need for business. So knowing who your power partners are and who it is that you want to connect with is really helpful. I have a terrible, terrible memory. I just know that about myself. So I have learned to do a lot of things in advance. I'm like the queen of scheduling emails. So I will set aside, like on my calendar, if I know I'm going to a networking event that ends at 6:30, I will block my calendar out until like 7:15 so that I can come home from that networking event, schedule emails to go out in the next like couple weeks that say, hey, it was so great to meet you last week at blah, blah, blah event. I loved our conversation about this thing. Would love to, chat with you more about that or whatever it is. And then I'll schedule it to go out in 9 days or something. And
Mhm.
to me, that's not any less authentic than if I sent that email in 9 days, right? I still do want to connect with the person. I still genuinely do want to follow up with them. I just know 9 days from now, I'm not going to remember to send that email. And I will probably make myself a note that says, follow up with Taylor. And then I will get there and I'll be like, who the heck is Taylor? I don't
That
even know
or
what's
what did we
going
talk
on.
about?
Exactly. So I'm all about making things as easy as possible. So, there's a lot of CRMs that will help you keep track of the people that you met, the last time you followed up with them, things like that. I use a dot card, which is like a virtual business card that has a little scanny thing on it. That lets people like upload all of your information into their phone. And that's really helpful for me too when other people have things like that, so that I can then put notes right in there of like, this is where I met them and this is like why I think I maybe want to connect with them further. So um all those kinds of things kind of help me to keep up with who I want to keep up with and make sure that things don't fall through the cracks.
I love that. And I really want to hone in on the authenticity with automation, right? I think that that's huge. Utilizing automation to help you support those authentic connections in real time, as opposed to that step by step later down the road and things falling through the cracks or being like, I don't even remember. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So let's move to the V of I move, which is all about velocity. What tactics have you found to be the most successful in accelerating the growth and impact of Powerful Women Rising, especially in the entrepreneurial communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm still trying to figure out the answer, but so far, what has worked is I I have a lot of luck on Eventbrite. I have found Eventbrite, like that is my best lead generation strategy right now, which is so weird, but I do these virtual speed networking events. I put the events on Eventbrite. I run ads on Eventbrite. They're way cheaper than Facebook ads, and I get like a huge return on investment with them. So right now, this is what I do. I run Eventbrite ads to the virtual speed networking event. I have a lot of people who come back to the virtual speed networking event time and time again. So I would say it's probably usually about 50-50, 60-40 of people who have attended before versus new people. And then generally from that event, people want to join the community. One of the reasons being that they've now met all of these awesome people that they want to follow up with, but that's very overwhelming to them. And so we created the Powerful Women Rising community to kind of have the follow up built in. They don't have to do a lot of extra work other than showing up to the calls, which are beneficial for their business, but also then allow them to connect with people. So that's been a really powerful tool for growth. And I know for you too, a huge thing is just referrals and testimonials. Like once you start getting in there and talking to people and working with people and they're getting good results, they want to tell other people about you. They want to tell other people about the community. And that's my favorite way to get velocity. Um, but it takes some time to build up to that too.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's bring things home with execution. What a major initiative or project are you currently prioritizing and executing on in your business?
Yeah. So right now I'm really trying to grow my YouTube channel. YouTube is foreign to me. When I launched my podcast about a year and a half ago, I was like, let's just put it on YouTube because we're recording it anyway. And everyone says YouTube's great for SEO. So I've just been like willy-nilly putting things on YouTube. And now I'm like, maybe we should have an actual strategy. But also, part of my strategy is recognizing, and this is big for everyone, I think, and it took me a very long time to get here, recognizing there are some areas that I am an expert at, and there are some that I am not. And there are things that I'm not an expert at, but I would like to be an expert at, so then I can become the expert. I am not an expert at YouTube. I don't want to be an expert on YouTube. So finding people who are already experts in that space and can help me is my current endeavor. And that's been very helpful. And just trying to get things set up more automated. Like when we first launched something, we kind of like piecemeal everything together. And I remember when I launched my new website about 6 months ago, I was meeting with a potential person to do my website. And he's like, so how does it work right now? And I'm like, well, I built this landing page in Canva. And if someone wants to join from the landing page, then they click here. It takes them to a Google form. They fill out the Google form, then they click here and it takes them to Stripe and then they pay. And he's like, how's that working for you? And I'm like, it's worked great for me so far. And now it's time to move up. So just trying to make my life a little bit easier and also find people who are good at what I'm not that good at, who can kind of support me in moving on to that next stage.
Absolutely. And I have to point out, I love that you're like, "Hey, we got in, we created a landing page in Canva, we linked it to a Google form, Stripe payment, done." And someone who does that professionally is probably like, is that really working? You're like, yes, it's getting the job done, but now we're evolving. And I love that because I think it really does show that authenticity of like, hey, I'm here to help people and this is what gets the job done now. And that evolution that happens in business and that guidance. So I love that. So beautiful. And I'm excited for all those new things on the horizon for you.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
So, how can our audience learn more about you and connect with you further?
Yeah, so the best place is the website, which is no longer on Canva. It's powerfulwomenrising.com. And if they want to go to that page, in the event section, there's a link to register for the virtual speed networking events. I do those once a month. They're only $5. So you can register for those on the website. I also have on the website a list that I created of the top 5 virtual networking events for female entrepreneurs. So if they want to grab that, they can get that off of my website as well. Of course, mine is
Beautiful.
number one, but I'm biased.
And that link is also in our video description, so it's just an easy click away. And again, that's powerfulwomenrising.com/events. Well,
Yes.
Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show today, for sharing the insights, the background, and the deep dives about your business and about networking and building relationships as an entrepreneur. It is such a valued piece. And I know that this episode will be so helpful to so many of our listeners and watchers, our audience as a whole. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
And for those of you watching, listening, and attending these live interviews, be sure to stay tuned, follow along. We will have more Get Good at Business highlights coming for you in the future. And if you would like to be interviewed here on the show, you can join our Facebook group, which is called, funny enough, Get Good at Business. There's a common theme here. So if you go to facebook.com, go to your groups and check out Get Good at Business. And in our featured post section, there is a way that you can apply to be a speaker here and get your business highlighted as well. But in the meantime, stay tuned, keep an eye out. We'll have more incredible interviews from business owners like Melissa. And be sure to remember that we can get good at business together.